the definition is like give back and take care of the land. So to me, malam honua is just to be thankful for what you have from nature and for what those before you have laid the foundation for.
It's also about actually living the life that you're not just talking about it, but you're doing it. And I think what it inspires kids to do is to see that that's a reality. They have this connection of all the things that Polynesian Voyaging Society is doing and that Nainoa Thompson is doing is representing them, and it helps to create their identity of how they see themselves in the world, and it's empowering to them is what I've seen.
First is like pride, because being from Hawaii and being in the DOE and just the public school education system, it's a cool relationship to have.
I think it's like the kuleana like that everyone is entitled to, that everyone is, I guess to me it's like an expectation now with how bad the environment's becoming.
What Philosophy for Children, or P4C, is based on these 4 pillars, we like to call them. And the first one is community. Do you have an intellectually safe community in your classroom? And the second one is inquiry. Are the kids asking questions? Do they have command over their thinking skills? The next one is philosophy with a little p, not a big P. Philosophy, the idea of wonderment. Are we bringing wonderment back into the classroom? And lastly is reflection. We're going to sit and think about what do we learn, and we're really going to reflect on the learning process. And what Philosophy for Children offers teachers is a set of tools and activities to help them bring this to life in the classroom. And one of the main activities, I want to say it's the flagship activity that kind of models all of these things at one time, is called Plain Vanilla. And what Plain Vanilla really is, it's an approach to a text or a stimuli of any sort. So the students will read something, they'll watch a video, they'll have a science experiment, a math problem, a field trip, and then what happens next is the students all pose questions. And we like to call them in high school philosophical questions, and they have some criteria that teachers have come out with. And then what happens next after that is the students will publicly share these questions. Either they'll be written on a board, on sheets, on their desk, and then the students will each vote on which question they would most like to think about together. And then once that question is selected, the students are going to have a minute to write, or a handful of minutes. And that's important because oftentimes teachers don't give their students thinking time. And this is also connecting the verbal discussion, the verbal inquiry, with the written inquiry. One informs the other. So once everyone's gotten some ideas down on paper, then the person whose question got voted starts off basically providing some background on where the question came from and providing the first answer. And then what you'll see is hands go up, and the students use a community ball to facilitate turn taking. So the teacher's not the one saying, you go next, you go next. It's actually the students are the ones doing this.
So like some classes are just like sit straight, do your work. But then once you become a circle or like a community where you're all facing each other so you can see their faces and their reactions, it's a lot more different, because then it really opens up like, oh, okay, that's how they're feeling. It's sort of like empathy. We always make it seem like a personal point of view, and we also accept other point of views as well.
What you see learning as is a right or wrong answer, and P4C allows you to look through all the different possibilities.
Faith was saying, I think, or my interpretation of what she was trying to get at is, you don't really know what you have until it's gone. So that really has a lot to do with change, and looking at the question, way of life is really culture. And if you try to change the culture as it has progressed through time, given time, culture has really changed, and it's something that a lot of people are afraid of, and that I think I'm kind of afraid of. Change is always scary.
You're also figuring out yourself, and by that you can become connected to not only your culture, but you can become connected to everyone else's culture because you're listening to them. And I think that's very important, and I think that's also what they're trying to say on the hokulea, like not only give all this to other people, but also find yourself within that. And I think that's very important and something that people should take into nowadays.
Our journey is to like go to other classes or like schools and like teach them philosophy, and then like how it says, like if the journey ends, like I think our goal is that for the journey to never end. So like the way I thought of it is like we're like passing on the torch to the next generation, because like after we graduate, I'm pretty sure like there's still other people that'll like pass on the knowledge that we taught them.
It helps a lot with communicating skills. So like, it allows us to like go out, make ourselves vulnerable so other people can feel comfortable with us, because vulnerability is really important in learning.
You learn like social skills and taking risks and developing ideas and how other people are like understanding and communicating your ideas and understanding and communicating their ideas, and it's just like back and forth and constant input output.
I definitely think that they can see the value in it because it's been brought up in inquiries not just in this class but in other classrooms, even in the elementary schools that we're at. You know, the idea that we don't know how to listen to each other, and so that what they're seeing is that oftentimes philosophy or P4C seems to be a speaking activity, but what they've come to the realization, and this was actually just kind of brought up in the last few weeks, it's really about listening to each other.
I feel like if you think about it, Mālama Honua is trying to spread the message that we all need to care for each other and not just like the earth. But like in P4C, we're also spreading a sense of care and respect, but also we're spreading the respect of listening, like the importance of listening to one another and always being willing to hear each other out.
Mālama Honua is kind of like, it's exactly like P4C because it's not something that is narrow-minded or only one mindset can have. There's always so many different branches of it, and it's something that it's not like, oh, only I can connect to it. It's you and I both can connect to it.
I think the only difference between our P4C and them is they're teaching responsibility in our resources and sustainability, and we're just helping like kids to learn about whatever they choose to learn about.
The philoSURFERS, the name was actually created by Cindy Mendoza. She was one of our first philoSURFERs. And the idea is Kailua High School, their mascot, they're the Surfriders or the surfers, and Philosopher. And by combining the two, it really celebrates the work that's been happening at Kailua High School for the past 15 years. The beginning of P4C is we always want to support teachers who are doing it with ongoing classroom support. But there's so many teachers that are bringing P4C into their classroom that Ben and I can no longer support all those teachers. So out of necessity, we had to find ways that we could support these teachers. What we began to realize was that we had a whole bunch of expert philosophers and residents waiting for us to tap into, and those are the students at Kailua High School. So what the philoSURFERs do is essentially they're interning with me, the philosopher in residence. And when they go into classrooms, they'll go in pairs at the very minimum, and they're going to support that teacher, helping them bring philosophy for children to life. And what that means is they'll collaborate with the teacher beforehand, maybe do some reflection after, but while the class is going on, they'll either be facilitating the activity because they have all this experience in facilitating it, they know how it's supposed to go, or they'll be participating alongside the students as thinkers if the teacher is facilitating.
It's fun because like it's not every day that we get to watch kids participate in philosophy, because when I was in elementary school, all I thought about was recess and like never really thought about thinking outside the box. I always thought about what's on the paper.
Being a philosopher is wonderful. I get to speak to children where most people don't think that's something that they can comprehend, normal questions or things.
We talked about how we as philoSURFERs are like wayfinders, teaching the younger generation or the new wayfinders to help more and more people be the leaders of tomorrow.
When I think about things in real life now, like it's not hard for me to understand that there's more things to a subject than just the surface of what I think.
I think P4C is spreading rapidly here because it seems to be a natural fit for Hawaii, with so many different perspectives and different backgrounds and different cultures that we need tools and opportunities to learn from them.
It's not something that I can just use, oh, in today's class, this is what we're going to discuss, and I'm going to forget about in 20 years or even 5 years. It's something that I can apply for my colleges, so that way I can better my education, for my better life, for everything.
The hope with all of this is that we're cultivating a generation of people that not only has the tools to be reflective and to think well in their own lives, but has the tools also to build the type of community that we need.